Controlled Chaos here. Today I have a really good interview for you guys. I'm with Rick Reynolds, who you guys know as Carneros. He does the fireside chats. He does the dev interviews and interacts with us content creators and does a lot of work behind the scenes. How you doing today, Carneros?
Great. Thank you. I hope you can hear me okay.
Oh yeah, we can hear you fine. So, as I always ask, how did you get into the games industry? What was your first job?
Ah, ah. Okay, this was a few years ago. Um, I was before games, I was a journalist. I was a high-tech journalist. I usually wrote columns and articles and reviews for computer magazines. Um, this was a while ago. Computer magazines haven't been big for a while. But I was writing about everyone's cool stuff. They would invite me to demos and meetings and show me things, and I'd write about it. They'd loan me software and hardware. I'd write about it. One day, I got to the point where I don't want to write about this stuff. I want to help make it. I want to help be a part of it in some way. My programming is not good enough. I don't have any art skills, or not enough of them. So I needed to come up with something else. And at one point, the hot company in Silicon Valley that year was the 3DO company. They made a console that attached to your TV.
Yes, I remember that.
They were, by the way, in 1993, they were the first company to ever go public on NASDAQ without a single dollar of revenue to their name.
Wow.
It was crazy. It was crazy. It was that hot. I joined them just as they were launching the console and helped them with the launch in progress. So I joined their marketing department and their industry relations department. And I would write newsletters and advertisements and company ads and Christmas cards and annual and quarterly reports and just whatever they needed, I would write it because I had writing skills.
Mm-hmm.
And we had a great team, loved those people, learned a ton. Yeah, that was my start. And actually, years later, Trip called me up. Trip Hawkins, the CEO of 3DO, called me back up and said, "Can you come back and work for us again? We could use a good marketing guy." And so I went back and worked for them again. And I was there at the end also.
Nice.
Yeah. The games industry is not a place with a lot of job security.
No,
The only job
it does
security
not.
you have is your reputation with the people you work with. They get to know you. They get to know what you're good at and not good at, although that changes over time.
Yes.
They get to know how easy you are to work with and what kind of management styles you use with your people or you respond well to from above. And then they, when they need you, they call you up and say, "Hey, are you busy?"
Yep.
Stuff like that. That's your job security.
Yeah.
I think it's like the motion picture industry in that regard.
Yeah, it's mainly project to project. And that's the thing.
Kind
So
of.
if you're working on single player games, you work on that one game, and if there's not another game in development that they can move you over to, they just let you go. And I've been there. And when you talk about reputations, I've been there too, because when I worked for Microsoft Game Studios, I worked on the Halo franchise. And that game got done, got moved on to another project. I got let go after a couple of projects. And Eric Helbig, who was the main producer over at 343 at the time, was starting up another Halo game. And he requested me to come back. Get me back because he doesn't have the power of who to choose for testers. That's under the test manager. Test manager put in control was on the last project where I got fired. I got fired because I did my job and I said, "Hey, this needs to be tested." Didn't get tested, failed cert, cost the company money. Manager threw me, or the team lead threw me under the bus. And so that's how I lost my job. Eric was upset. But so, I know exactly what you're talking about, and that's always a good thing. That shows that you have value in the industry. And, well, I mean, you've worked on other big things. You've stated that you worked on EVE Online.
Yeah.
And you were part of the team there. That's a big MMO. So, Raph bringing you onto the team, once again, bringing someone with that MMO experience. Yeah, you're not a developer.
A good idea at the time.
Yeah, you're not a developer, but you're doing other things behind the scenes.
Yeah, well, it's a small team, so we're all wearing multiple hats. It's a startup.
Yeah,
that's
exactly.
The feeling, culture of the place. Yeah.
Yeah. So speaking of your job at Playable Worlds on Stars Reach, what is your position and job for?
That's worth telling people. My title is Director of Marketing, and I look after branding, messaging, all kinds of outbound messaging, public relations, relations with content creators. I look after, I'm helping out on the side with customer service, even though that's not part of my job, but someone needed to do it. So I'm working on that.
Public relations sort of ties into that, though.
Yeah, I guess. A lot of people think PR and they think you're talking to the journalists, the analysts, that community, and I do that too.
Yeah.
That's part of it. And then I help Dave Georgeson with monetization. We both have a background in that, so we're working together, and that's a lot of fun. That's some of my most favorite part of my job right now. And by the way, if you're listening to this and you know about Stars Reach and you've played it for a little while and you have feelings about our monetization and you want to send me notes of things to consider, if you send those notes send it to community@playableworlds.com.
Okay, yeah,
I'm gonna Dave put and that, I can both see it.
Yeah, I'm gonna put that down in the description. I'll put a link there for that, because I think that's really great that you're offering to do that.
Yes.
And because monetization, especially nowadays with the free to play, you can get that pay to win, you can get that greedy feeling and stuff like that. I don't feel that you guys are going that direction. I think you guys are trying to do a balancing act of making it so as many people can access the game, but you guys need to make money so that you guys can pay your bills, you can pay your employees, and keep a roof over your guys' head.
Pay the AWS bill. Yeah.
Yeah.
So what I would like to do is have some help from the community on this, instead of just me and Dave trying to figure it out on our own with Microsoft Excel. So if you guys can give us some feedback, I would be grateful.
Yeah, I know I'm going to be one of those giving feedback, because I'm one of those that I see hint of pay to win, I'm gone. I'm willing to pay for customization, but if all the cool stuff is locked behind a paywall, I'm gone then too. I want...
Well, we shouldn't have anything locked behind a paywall, because if you're the kind of person who, let's say, you don't believe in credit cards, you don't want to use them, they're evil, you that's not how you live your life, great. Okay. If you can play the game and earn some in-game currency, you can buy Solarians from other players and then use that to go buy the stuff that's cool that's in the store. So there's a path to no real world money, no credit card, and still get everything the other guys have. But it would require you to hustle a bit in game and, give up some of your in-game wealth to be able to do it.
Well,
Does that make any sense? It's like Plex and Eve.
Yeah, it's for those players who are able to play more, but don't have the money. And I think that's a good thing for the game, because then that keeps the game alive with a player base going. And then those people who have a lot of money but not a lot of time can buy the stuff with the cash and then turn around and sell it for that Plex or whatever the in-game money is for the time players. And it creates that marketplace once again. And that there I don't see as really a pay to win. You're servicing both the players themselves, the world, and then you're also enticing those people who have money, and sometimes they're called whales, which
we don't say that.
That's not. Well,
it's not 100% flattering term. So
no, it's not. I mean, you gotta look at those people that are.
I want to steer you away from that for another reason.
Okay.
When I was at CCP the first time, I was marketing director for Eve, and I was senior director of sales for CCP. And one of the things on my plate at that time was Plex. And we still had game time codes at that time and stuff like that, but Plex. Plex is not for whales. Plex is for anybody. And Plex expanded once the Plex system was adopted, it expanded the number of subscribed characters in Eve up about 30% before it plateaued. And that stayed steady for a long time, for years and years. That 30% more subscribers could justify the game with their budgets and could make it work, and was worth it to them compared to the rest. And I would like to see a 30% larger subscribed. That won't be the right word for us. Stars Reach has a different model than subscription, but that's still that 30% more that are paying for their play in Stars Reach would be lovely. And we can do it if we just structure it a little bit like EVE Online. The players control the economy. And this is not a whales thing. This is, maybe you can justify one, we'll see. EVE is a little different though, because EVE Online encourages multi-boxing. And I don't think we're going to do anything at all to encourage multi-boxing in Stars Reach. But we shall see. You guys can have input in that too. If you have opinions on that, feel very free to send an email about that also. But yeah, CCP was a great experience. I loved it. I went there more excited about their World of Darkness MMO than about their EVE Online MMO. So they had a spaceship MMO that was doing well, and they were working on a vampire MMO based on the World of Darkness. Let me see here. One moment. I don't know. Vampire the Masquerade.
I remember very well. I was a big fan of that. The whole entire. You could play as a werewolf. You could play as a mage. You could play as a vampire. They even did a Highlander test spin-off on it. They also did a Street Fighter spin-off using their D10 system and stuff like that. They
did a game called Vampire: The Eternal Struggle.
Yep.
Maybe you remember.
I remember that.
Wasn't from CCP, but that was the same thing.
Yeah.
And I was excited about working on that, but I started learning Eve, and then I got hooked on Eve.
Yeah.
Before that, I got hooked on MMOs with Meridian 59.
Ooh, I remember that one.
Remember that. For those of you who are young, games used to come in boxes. That was a joke, but they did. Uh, so that was my first MMO that I got hooked on and helped work on.
Oh,
Although I
you
didn't
helped
work on it
work
very
on
long.
Meridian 59?
I helped on early marketing stuff when
Oh.
I was part of the team alpha testing it when it was a separate company called Archetype Interactive, and I
Mhm.
was part of the team that went to management and said, "Hey, we should buy this company or this game or something. We should help these guys come to market because this is really fun. There's nothing else really like it right now. This has huge potential. I love it." And a couple of us were just hooked on this game while we were working on other games at 3DO. So we had meetings, and and in the end, it worked out, and we bought the company. And I helped out when they first moved the server, drove it in a car from Texas to California, set it up. There were times when the server would go down when it was like us here in pre-alpha and available for gameplay. And on weekends, if the server went down, I lived the closest to the office, and I
Mhm.
would drive in and restart the thing. It was so funny.
Oh man.
But I was in the initial marketing meetings where we said, what are we going to call it? We need to have a category. It's got to go into the computer system that is used by the video game stores. It needs a category for that. What are we going to, are people going to be willing to pay a subscription? They're already paying a subscription for internet every month. Are they willing to pay for two? I mean, this was early days.
Yeah,
No one knew what the magic
Meridian
was.
59 wasn't that like the first true graphical MMO?
It was pretty much for what we know of these things. Yeah, it was just a little bit before EverQuest and Ultima Online. Um, Ultima was the first one to come up with the term
Mm.
MMO, and they said it partly because they picked the massively multiplayer part because Meridian 59 couldn't scale up as big as Ultima could. Uh,
Ah.
it was only like 256 people per server or something like that,
Mhm.
which at the time was still felt amazing.
Well, yeah, I mean,
And then
you're dealing
Ultima
with
took it to the next level.
56K modems, so your
Yeah.
internet's not that strong back then.
Oh, I know. I remember.
Yeah,
I
so
can.
I.
We can all still stop and think about it for a second, and in our minds hear the data burst sounds of the dial-up modem connecting.
That
Can we not? Yes.
if you had one single line and someone picked up that phone, you were disconnected.
Yeah.
Trust me, I remember
And
those
that was
days.
sadness. That was
Yeah.
sadness
Yep.
all over. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm back in those days with you. I remember those days
Yeah.
because my first computer was the Commodore 64, and my first experience was on a baud modem.
Yeah.
So I feel you there. So with let's get back to talking about Stars Reach.
Yes, sir.
So I gotta say that the work you do behind the scenes, especially from what I've seen, interacting with you to get these interviews set up and get announcements is really nice. You're quick to respond. And if you don't, you at least give a reason. Sorry, I was in a meeting, or it's really hectic. It's like I went to set up this interview a week ago, and you literally said, "Hey, we're wrapping up the Kickstarter. We're all rushing around, really busy here. Can you please give me a week?" And I immediately said yes. And I like how you're working with the content creators, especially small ones like me. My hope is that when Stars Reach launches, we both explode at the same time and we both grow together.
Amen. I hope so too. I hope so too. If you're if you put yourself in the position of the marketing folks for a moment, You want to work with content creators. You want them to get excited about your game and show it to people on screen. You have no idea how to find the ones that are going to be a good fit with your game. You can invite them to try it, but you don't know if they'll like it. You know, let's pretend for a moment that we said, oh, let's invite Asmongold. Okay, we'd have to pay him. You know, he'll show up and he'll either like it or not like it, or pretend to like it, or kind of like it, but say horrible things in between. And you're like, oh, we just spent all of our money on this. You know, you don't know what's going to happen. It's crazy. When you'd rather find people that actually like your game and aren't trying to sell it to people, but instead just express their own enthusiasm. And some criticisms are great. I would rather get criticisms from you guys who are really playing it than from content creators, because sometimes they're more interested in how to stream it than they are to how to play it for themselves when no one's watching.
I have seen that. There's times where I've seen, streams and videos of, it doesn't feel like they're really a gamer, because gamers know the initial thing of, oh, how do I do this in the game? What button do I hit? My first thought always is, let me go into the options and keyboard configurations. Let me take a look, and being that age where, I played the games back in the 80s and late 80s and 90s, where you had to explore everywhere. Didn't have YouTube for these guides and tutorials on hi-fi and things. So you had to figure things out for yourself. When I run into those issues, I'm not sitting there going, oh my God, where do I go? What do I do? I just immediately, I start looking around either with my eyes or listening and things like that. So, I agree with you.
Yeah.
And yeah, having content creators and people playing your game that
Yep.
love it is a great thing. And I don't want to sound like a fanboy, but I'm already in love with this game and excited for it, just with what you guys can do, because I can see where you guys are going with it.
And we still have a ways to go.
Oh yeah, you guys
we're
have
making progress.
You guys have a long distance to still go. But, I like the fact that, your developers are saying, look, we're working on the stuff we've never worked on before and getting that all ironed out. The stuff we've done before, we can easily implement. And if it doesn't implement correctly, we can correct it quicker than creating something new that no other game has done before, which is this whole entire living world. The fact that you actually have trees that grow, actual seasons. Impressed me. When you guys came up with public events, I was like, oh, this is gonna be like, Warhammer Online, where it's just always static, one spot, same thing over and over again. Okay, I've seen that. That's been done before. And then you guys implement it. And even in the pre-alpha stage that's in, the fact that rotates and it changes location in the world. And so it's not the same thing over and over again in the same spot. I was like, okay, this is new. This is fresh. I don't know what's going to happen next. And I like that. And the fact that we're only paying in a small chunk of the world, because we're 1 kilometer by 1 kilometer, and you guys are going to expand out to try to go for 4 kilometer by 4 kilometers. That's a huge area. Like I said,
time. We'll get there.
Yeah,
but
it's going to take time because, like I said, this is pre-alpha.
On a lot of those global world events, things that happen, I haven't experienced them all yet.
Yeah, even I
haven't. I don't even know how many there are in the list, but I haven't experienced them all. But as far as I know, none of them are a scripted vignette that you're supposed to experience as a piece of content. No, these are creatures with there's a script to set up starting it, But once they get in, they're on their own AI as they move around and choose where to go and what to do. They're not going to move along a path that someone set up, monster on rails type thing. No. Yeah, they're
I've seen that because there's so many times where I go to Rodin and there's a big boss mob there, and sometimes 2 or 3 right now. But once again, this is pre-alpha.
I
So
think
there's
that's a
gonna be
bug. I think
yes,
it's
I'm
not
with you.
supposed to spawn multiple copies, but I think sometimes it does. Anyway,
Yeah,
we'll fix
well, what I
it.
think might be happening is because what's going on is it's spawning one, and that boss mob is really really tough, and for some reason
Yeah,
it's then causing another we can't take it out in time, and another event spawns and it's spawning that boss mob again. And because some of those boss mobs actually call for help as part of their AI, it's calling that boss mob to come help it out. So then you're getting the 2, 3. That's
yeah.
my first overlook at. If not,
And you
it
need
could
to
be
group
players
up with
dragging you
some
into it.
friends or strangers or something to tackle those
Oh yes.
because they're not set up to be soloable.
Yeah, and trust me, the ones that we were running across that are at those portals that we're all fighting, there's a huge group of us using the
Yeah,
Omni blasters, the gravity guns, the helixes and stuff like that, and we're literally working as a team. And then once we kill one, take one out,
yeah,
a huge dance party erupts just to heal wounds.
yeah, yeah. You have to.
Yeah. So with us talking about gameplay mechanics,
Yep.
when you're not actually having to do work as the marketing director and you're able to get into the game, what do you enjoy doing in the game? What's the first thing you like to do?
Um, there's 2 ways to answer it. There's the game today, and then
Hmm.
there's what I envision when the game launches. But for the game today, I like to explore and go see what it is that people have made and what has changed. So I like to, move around and go check out. Is that a different plant? Did they change this tree? Type thing. Go
Hmm.
up. Um, if you, by the way, you've got a harvester tool. You can go click things that have fruit on it and get some fruit, and you can click on a mushroom or click on a fallen log and pick up some pieces of spare wood, kindling or whatever. But you can actually click on all of the fauna, flora, all the plant life. And if it's the first time you've clicked on it, it will come back and tell you, you have now seen a white beech tree or something, and it will tell you what it is, and it will record it to your lookup table later that you have seen this. You can't tell, but you're filling out a sticker book that you can't see yet.
Yeah, so
If
that's
you once you have clicked like that on every plant on a planet, you will have completed a sticker book page. You'll see in the future, but that the user interface is not yet finished and it's not yet revealed to the players, but the data is being collected. And I like to do some of that just to get out there and see it. There's also a similar thing for the flora, for the fauna, for the creatures. Go out and sample each of them, but that's not ready to be collecting yet. I don't know what tool we will use for that because I don't think it will be the harvester, but there will be something that you can genetically sample, up close type thing. I like to joke not to go up and pet some of those large dangerous things, but that's basically kind of what you have to do with, to go and sample them later.
yep.
You'll see.
Well, and that could
And
work for like the bioengineer like we had in Star Wars Galaxies. Create custom animals and pets, and then you had the creature handlers and stuff like that. And there was a whole entire marketplace to this.
yep.
Because
Well, remember the mapping thing where you can go out and find all the nodes, and when
yes,
you've collected the whole set,
yeah,
you've made a mini map now that you can sell to other players or gift to people in your guild or whatever, there will be an equivalent to that map for other kinds of exploration collection type activities. If you do all of the plants on a planet, that will give you a certificate that you can transfer to someone. And if you gave it, for example, to a farmer, that would improve the productivity of their farm, the health and the performance of their plants would improve because they have that data. They get a buff basically from what you did.
Okay. So
it won't transfer to another planet. You'll have to go to that planet and then go and sample all of those to get one for that planet. So you could do farming there.
I see that working in the marketplace in so many different ways, because you mentioned doing plants, but you could do the same thing with creatures and handle that information to a creature handler who wants to do something like maybe a cattle farm, or the prospecting. You can hand that to another miner and do things like that. And that just
I'm hoping
so
we'll be able to
the economy.
That a rancher would be able to crossbreed and improve their stock in some way genetically. And if they have that database that you collected, that they have better random rolls or something in what they're doing.
Yeah, they get better.
That's not all finished.
Yeah, it's something you're still playing around with, and once it gets introduced into the game, like you guys always do with everything, you want our feedback so you guys can make it better. I remember Raph stating when I first got in, I was asking about experimentation and crafting. It's like, well, we did have it in, but people really didn't like the feel of it, didn't feel that fun. So we've taken it out, we're readjusting it and making it feel better. I like that, because, you know, it shows that, yeah, this is Raph's world. This is your guys' world. You guys are working on it, and it's interesting and different, but you guys want our feedback so that we can enjoy it and have fun with it, because we're not enjoying it and having fun with it, we're not going to play it. And then what's the whole? And that's really, really good. I like the fact that, and that keeps you extremely busy. I bet.
Yeah, but it's not, it's fun.
Yeah,
it's fun. I normally play MMOs pretty hardcore, if we're honest. So I'm connected into, comms for my group and my gamer friends and various games and discords, and I'm connected all the time anyway for fun. So talking about Stars Reach in between talking about all the other games I play and the friends that I play with, it's all good.
Yeah, it's well, that's the thing. Having a job that's your passion and something you like doing, it doesn't always feel like a job. Only the things that are very monotonous and stuff like that, like all the paperwork and back end stuff, can sort of do that to you. But when you get a chance to like sit down with me and chat just about the game, that's a lot more fun. Getting to do those fireside chats and stuff like that, that's probably where you're just can't wait to do those kind of things, because it's what you're passionate about.
Right. And we're recording this on a Friday. I don't know when it will show up for people. But tomorrow hoping we have a fireside chat, and I'm excited about that.
I'm gonna be watching that and keeping an eye on that. I've been watching a lot of the live streams. In fact, you've actually seen me in the chat asking some questions and stuff like that. And I ask those questions. I have a rough idea of what the answer might be, but I ask those questions so that you guys can sort of talk about, promote, maybe even bring up more hints and clues. And the question I actually came up with while talking to you is, you mentioned that you like to go out and you like to see what's new in the world, what people built, and stuff like that. So when we get those play tests and those screenshots of the world for those play tests and then like other article parts, is that you going out and getting those screenshots?
Actually, most of the time a player took that screenshot, not me.
Oh, so you're utilizing the show
the
your
wow
work,
moments
the
channel.
wow moments and stuff like that.
Yeah.
To your advantage.
Yeah.
That's a smart marketing director. Use the community
Yeah.
as your grabs and stuff
Well,
like that.
look at it this way too. Someone in the community thought this was cool enough to take a screenshot and looked at it again later and then posted it to Discord. Check this out.
Yeah.
If that person thought it was that interesting, other people are going to think it's that interesting too. And
Exactly.
so now I have some corroboration that this is an interesting screenshot, and it's not just me. So I like it.
Yeah.
I like the system.
So on that topic, did you see that Gunk, a guild that's formed all about keeping the environments going on these planets, and we don't even have guild systems in the game yet, but
Yeah.
they did an event this last week for Easter. That wasn't done by you guys. You didn't reach out to them, ask them to do that. There's not even an event system. They did that themselves. What do you think about people creating guilds before there's even a guild system and doing events like this before you?
This is the way. This is how these things are supposed to happen. Let me back up to a previous game again for a second. EVE Online. People started to form guilds before the guild support was in the game, called corporations in EVE. And then once corporations were in, players in the game started forming alliances of corporations. There was no support for it in the game yet, but it existed in the metagaming that the players were doing outside of the client itself. That's real. Just because something is not built into the game client does not make it not part of the game. It's real. That's that's canon, as I would call it. The activities of the players are a valid part of the storyline and are just as real as the lore written by the devs. So, and again, looking at EVE again, the company caught up and added alliance support into the game client, and then players put together coalitions of alliances of corporations. That's still not in the game in any way. There's no in-game client support in EVE for a coalition. When I play EVE, my corporation is called the Night Watchman. The Night Watchman Corp is a member of Goonswarm Federation, a relatively famous, some would say infamous group in EVE Online. And then Goonswarm Federation is a member of a coalition called the Imperium, along with TNT, Get Off My Lawn, Sigma, Dracaris, Brave Newbies, and a bunch of other groups. So it's fun. Yeah, this is real for Stars Reach too.
Yeah,
the players are driving part of the development of the community, and that's real. And my philosophy on MMORPGs is it is a combination, a blend of a community, a world, and a game. That's part of the magic. If you're an antisocial person, but you still enjoy the world, the feeling of being immersed in a world, you don't want to interact with people, that's okay, because we're building things in this game where you're interacting with people asynchronously. You log in when you play. You can purchase things from a player's store without really having to socialize with them. You can get their stuff, do an economic trade. It's meaningful, it's useful, it contributes to the game. It's social on one level and not on another. But there's more of that coming. Can I throw an example out there?
Yeah, I also have an example I want to throw out too.
Do you remember when Beanstalk Head led a group of people, organized and led a group of people to build a village?
Yeah, Beanstalk City. I helped out with that.
Beanstalk City?
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. Now, that's part of one model of how these things are supposed to work in the game now. Imagine if Beanstalk had leadership skills that were in a skill tree in the game that gave her points to use to set these things up. And as she unlocked them, she gained the ability to, for example, draw all the lines on the ground for where the streets should go for the village or the city. And then, and she could go out and lay them out. And then other people could come along and say, I want to contribute to this town. I don't want to actually socialize with a human being, but I want to contribute to this. This is a cool project. I'd like to build something here. I'll build a road there on this line. I know exactly where to do it. She might be asleep in bed 12 hours ago, type of thing, but games 24/7, the world's rotating, people can log in and play when they want. We're not yet at 24/7 for this game, but we will be. It's not that far off now. And so someone can come asynchronously and contribute, or build a building, set up a pad and start laying a foundation and start building in the spot there in the group. And as things grow and develop, the leader gets some more leadership points, can spend them in, get more abilities, organize a few more things. That's part of the vision for how this will go. And the players can lead the way. It doesn't all have to be Raph and Dave and Light designing things and then telling us how it will work and then asking for our feedback. No, a lot of it can be, we did it first.
Yeah, exactly. And speaking of that, we did it first. I played Anarchy Online. And Anarchy Online has a bunch of different clothing you could buy. One of the clothing you could buy was a pink tutu. And there's this race called the Aatrox, which were these big, buffed, humanoid race that were sexual. They had no sexual organs. And me and my brother
when that happens.
Yeah. And so we were leaving a city, and coming down the road was a line of 20 Aatroxes dancing with pink tutus and singing in chat. And me and my brother were just rolling, laughing, and wishing we had a way to capture this moment, and trying to take screenshots. We wanted to take videos and stuff like that. That's an asynchronous moment of community, because we didn't interact with them, they didn't interact with us, but we got to experience each other without the interaction. And it's those kind of things that create really good, strong, long-lasting memories. And that's what makes an MMO good. Just like when I played EverQuest, and I'm hanging out with my group of friends, and one of them's my brother's best friend, and he played a ranger. We're down in Lower Guck hunting the Frenzy, trying to get the flowing black silk sash, and the trash item it drops is the jagged band. My brother's best friend is sitting in the corner, emoting, rocking back and forth, saying, "They're all jagged pants, they're all jagged pants, they're all jagged pants." We're like, "What are you talking about?" He just says, "Look at my backpacks." We open up all 8 of his 16 slot backpacks, and they're full of nothing but jagged bands. Once again, we're laughing hysterically. It's, it's not even, it wasn't even a role-playing server, but he was role-playing because it was funny at the moment. It was a good gag. And I'm already seeing, because we're already seeing that kind of thing happen, like you were saying with Beanstalk City, happening in Star's Reach, and the fact that it's a sandbox MMO where you create your own adventure. You're not given quests. There's no question marks, explanation points above players' heads or a console to interact with. That you have to go here. You get to choose what you do in the world. If you go out and just build, you go out and build. You want to harvest, you go out and harvest. You want to go terminal and get a quest that's probably made by a player, is how I'm presuming how you guys are going to do the quest system.
Some of them.
Some of them, exactly. you have that. Or as I'm seeing now with this public events. I remember the first time public events ended, I jump into the game and the screen's shaking. I'm like, is this a new star animation? No, a giant asteroid had just landed right behind me. I turned around, giant pit of lava next to the lake, and a bunch of people running to it, pulling it off, and then they pulled out their mining tools and started mining. I'm like, what in the world's going on? And I asked, and they were like, oh, asteroids leave resources now. And I was getting diamonds and marble and stuff like that. That wasn't planned. That was all scripted out by the system you guys have created. And I found that just really fun. And that was when I thought to myself, okay, public events in Stars Reach are something new. You guys have taken it to the next level. And
yeah, we don't know when they're going to happen. We find out right when you do, when the little thing comes up on the corner saying, watch out, in 7 minutes, there's going to be an asteroid, whatever, shower. That's when we find out. It's,
Well, that and the new sound effects with this new update, the world's reset update, you guys added a sound effect to those now.
Yeah.
I really like that.
Kurt's working his butt off.
Yeah, a lot of you guys are working your butts off because, like you said, you're a small team handling, multiple different roles. I mean, you stayed everything you do with, your marketing side, your community manager, and interacting with the community and stuff like that. How often do you get a chance to actually jump in the game and just watch what players do?
Well, I jump into the game probably 5 days a week, I would say. But sometimes there's no players there other than other devs because we're quickly testing something. Guys, does this portal work? Guys, does the rifle shoot in the correct direction? Guys, can you res each other? Somebody go die for us so we can try to res you. That kind of, we're doing basic QA as a team because a lot of things you can't just QA yourself. You need other humans or you need a group or guys. One of the ones recently that Dave Georgeson will call people together and say, I just put a new boss mob in. Let's try it and see if we can even kill it. Let's just, and we'll get a group, and 10 or 15 of us will get in and try to all pile up on this thing. And sometimes that's too much for it. It goes right down.
Okay,
sometimes it's an ongoing battle for a while.
You get a chance to fight the mobs once Dave's created them. Any tips for taking out Fungus Mungus?
There are tips. I'm gonna direct you to ask that of Dave tomorrow in the fireside. He's going to be with me in it because he'll give you a better answer than I will. But for those of you who aren't familiar with the name he just said, probably the most difficult boss in the game at the moment is a creature called Fungus Among Us, all one word. A little bit of, in some ways, this game is not designed to take itself too seriously.
No,
so that's a lighthearted name.
Yeah, you get things like you attack a jackalope or a rabbit and turns into a vicious bunny rabbit and runs at you and explodes. I remember the first time that was in there, Dave was on the Discord chat with us a lot, and he just has this laugh. Every time a new mob comes out, we find the new ways he's doing things. Yeah. He has this laugh that's just great. I want to get a recording of that laugh just to play every so.
And those creatures that turn into a wild, raging whatever if you upset them. I know people like that.
Oh yeah, I
love nice. It. If you get in the car with them and someone cuts them off in traffic, wow. They turn into a very different person.
Yeah, exactly. Well, another one.
That's what I think of.
Yeah, another one that I liked was the gas hogs. The ones that when you destroy them, they disappear and they become bigger and bigger and bigger and then get destroyed. I remember my first reaction, Dave was there and he's just once again laughing like a madman while I screamed, it got bigger. What's going on? It just like,
Where
what
did
does
this
this
big one
in?
come from? Oh,
Yeah.
honey. Yes. Yeah.
So, I mean,
There's some rough things out there.
there are, and I really like it, especially with the new leveling system you guys have put in of mobs. The what's traditionally called the conning system,
Yeah.
created by a request, where you have the whites, the yellows, the oranges, the reds. There's so many
Yeah.
times where I've come over a hill, and just on the other side of the hill, I see like a red or a purple mob. I'm like, oh hell no! And I turn right around and run because there's a huge group of them. Made
Yeah.
even funner. And what I really like, especially now with this world's reset, is you guys have adjusted the experience. So now when you fight a white mob, you're not getting as much experience, sometimes none, because it could be a peaceful creature like a bunny rabbit or a fawn. So you really won't get experience for it. You're doing it for the resources or to hear your friend yell at you for killing the poor innocent bunny rabbit, which I've had happen in World of Warcraft. But then the higher level and more threatening the mob is, the more experience you get.
Yeah.
Plus the fact that, yeah.
There's a lot more coming in these systems, though, that are not there yet.
Yeah.
Right now, very little of what is dropped by the monsters is of immediate use to you or all that special.
Mm-hmm.
That's all going to change going forward. The loops are not all in yet to connect how much benefit the crafters get from the PvE fighters, and that the whole system is not all in place yet. So
Yeah.
stand by.
There's still a lot missing from this game.
Yeah.
That needs to be put in. One of the examples is you guys don't have the medic skill line in, so the helix is in the combat area.
Yeah.
And so, I think,
and that's not a good experience, and we know that.
No, it's not. But you guys, like you said, you're a small team. You guys can only work on so much at a
Yeah.
time. Guys, sort of direct. Okay, what's
Yeah.
the most important need? And the most important need right now is stability of the server and making sure that this new tech that you guys have come up with, this livable world, works and functions and can run 24/7. I know that that's your guys' main priority. And
Also, I want to point out something else. We've been working really hard on this Kickstarter. Well, we decided on a fairly short timeline that we were going to do this. And then we put all of the parts together, and then we ran it as hard as we could. And then we stopped and had to reconsider what we're doing. This past week, I attended a leadership offsite with some other folks in the company, and we sat down with Raf and went over. Here's what we need to do to get to 24/7. Here's all the parts to it. We built a priority order and a process for how we're going to get there and a whole plan. Anyway, we worked really hard and basically crunch time. That's a games industry term for working too hard in an unsustainable way. We're going to slow down a little bit now. We're going to take better care of our staff. We're going to do some hiring, and we're going to approach this next section, this next section of our game development journey much more sanely. So bear with us.
I think you guys all deserve that bit of a break because it was a crazy time during the Kickstarter. I'm so glad that you guys tripled what you guys were asking for. And hopefully, Raph has stated that they got some investor interest and stuff like that. So I'm hoping that things really kicked off. I'm really happy to hear
a lot
that, some of the player base actually became investors. And I think the smart move that you guys made of, okay, let's give more mid-level range capabilities of what people can do in the game quicker so that they can experience more of the game during the Kickstarter. And you guys
Yeah.
were running a lot of tests each week. You guys were running the servers so 2 times a day for like 5 days out of
And
the
that
week for
that
4
takes
weeks.
that takes multiple people away from game development to
Mm-hmm.
just have what we call live ops, live
Yep.
operations. And we've learned a chunk from that, and we're going to go back and build better tools and better automated systems to help us, because you know you don't want your limited number of staff in this startup to be doing repetitive tasks every day that don't help the game get finished and don't actually make things easier for the future, because you're going to have to do them again tomorrow. That's not ideal. So we're building, better
Yeah.
things now.
And I
Yeah,
think that's smart. I think it's smart that you guys are
thank you.
sort of backing off on the test. Those long test hours proved helpful. It was a good marketing strategy of, why just
Thank you.
talk about the game? Let them experience the
Yeah,
game. And that was very smart, because I don't know many Kickstarters where they can say, hey, we're making this game, come play our game and check it out. Most of them are, we
yeah,
have an idea for a game
yeah,
and we want your
yeah.
help. And I think that's what made it a success. And that success, really, because you're the marketing director, it lands on you, because you're the one sort of overseeing, I'm pretty sure, how the Kickstarter was going and things like that, and throwing in your input on.
When it's going well, the marketing director doesn't really get the credit, because it's the whole team that has to do it.
Yeah.
When it's not going well, the marketing director gets the blame. And that's, this is normal. This is human nature. This is
Yeah.
business. It's nothing personal. That's
Exactly. Well,
just life.
I think
But
you and the
thank you.
team did a really good job with the Kickstarter.
Thank you.
And I like a lot of what you do with the fireside chats and the interviews and stuff like that. Getting to know the team members, and especially being on Twitch, and us being able to actually ask the individual developers questions and things like that.
Now, you haven't met them all yet.
Not all,
There are
no.
some that are really shy
Yes.
and really don't want to be on camera. And I haven't been able to talk them into being willing to do a dev interview, but
Well,
someday.
I want to help you out with that. I want to bring them on here and do just sort of like we're doing now, where we're having a friendly chat. I think will make it a lot easier on them.
Some of them would rather chew their arm off than do that.
I've had
Sorry.
friends like that, but here's the thing. Okay, let me give you an example. A friend of mine, she is very antisocial. Doesn't even want her picture taken. You take a picture of her, she slugs you, type of person,
Yes.
right? We're going to PAX West. And it's our first PAX, and we're just standing in line to get in the first day. She turns to me and she goes, here's my camera, take my picture with this person who's cosplaying my favorite character. I looked at her like, this is a trap. I know this is a trap. You're wanting to hit me. No. She's like, no, seriously, take my picture with this person. I'm like, are you sure?
Yeah.
She goes, if you don't, I will slug you. And I said, fine. I took the picture, and she was giddy like a little schoolgirl. And this person's a tomboy, a straight up tomboy. I'm like, what's going on? You're a totally different person. She's like, I'm around like-minded.
Yeah.
So it's a lot
Well,
easier for me to interact with them.
if you are a Kickstarter backer watching this and you signed up for the launch party, you'll get to meet some of these people. That's one. And
Those
I
people are
look
lucky.
forward to a PAX or something like that where we can set up a booth with stations where we can bring the devs out and each give demos to players and show, check out this game. This is Stars Reach. This is what I'm excited about in the game. there's a lot of other stuff too, but
Yeah.
here, let's check this out.
Yeah,
I'd
that'd
love
be
to do
really
that.
cool. But doing a booth at something like PAX can get really expensive.
Yeah. Tell me about it.
And oh yeah, and the bigger the booth gets, the more expensive it gets, because especially when you decorate it out and all the designs
Uh-huh.
and stuff like that, and
Yep.
getting custom work for it, that can blow your budget like you wouldn't believe. I'd
Yep.
rather that you guys spend the money, work on the game.
Yep. I remember I've worked on a lot of these trade shows over the
Oh
years.
yeah.
I've demoed in booths at E3 or um, the Consumer Electronics Show, CES.
Yeah.
There used to be two CESs. There used to be a summer and a winter CES every year. And the summer CES was more focused on video games of the two. The winter CES was more about consumer electronics. And one year, a new group said to everyone, next year we're going to have a show and it'll be called the Electronic Entertainment Exposition, E3. And it's going to be this week. And they told us what week it was. And it was the same week as Summer CES for next year. And everyone said, holy crap, which one are we going to go to? And everyone looked at each other and no one said anything. And then Nintendo moved first and signed up for booth space at E3.
Mm-hmm.
And then everyone else followed suit.
Yeah.
You know, and once like Nintendo, Sony, Xbox, 3DO had all signed up for that, then all the game publishers followed them too, Electronic Arts, all the blah blah. And then they canceled the next summer CES and they never had another. And now, of course, that whole cycle has finished and the E3 has ended. And we don't know what's going to come next of that.
Well, something new will pop up. I mean, at least we still have PAX.
And we still have PAX and Gamescom and other stuff.
Yeah, exactly. And those are very fun because I've been to several of the PAX.
China Joy, G-Star in Korea, all that kind of, there's a lot of them. Yeah.
They're really great. So I want to go back for another moment on to Stars Reach. I want to know, what's the one feature you're excited to put into Stars Reach, not in the game?
Fishing.
Oh,
yes.
Yeah.
I love fishing.
Well, fishing can be fun. Fishing is relaxing. I remember I wouldn't do much but explore No Man's Sky, and then they added in fishing. And now all I'm doing is I've literally built fishing cabinets or cabins that I hang out with, and I'm planning, when you guys add in fishing, I'm planning on doing the same thing. I'm planning on going and harvesting a bunch of wood, creating this cabin right next to a lake and partially on the lake with a little hole in the floor to fish from.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
when before I went to work for CCP and learned EVE Online, I went through a World of Warcraft phase.
Mm-hmm.
I was a hardcore raider for a while, and when we weren't raiding, well, while the raid was running, if I got rotated out, I would just find the nearest stream or pond or lake to the entrance to the dungeon, and I would sit out there and fish till they were ready for the next boss and needed to rotate in another healer, because I usually played Resto Druid. And I would, fish up a bunch of stuff, cook something on a campfire with them, when I got to too many, and then, be ready. And I'd make feasts and meals and pass them out next time I went into the raid. And I enjoyed the combination of low intensity and high intensity in trade-offs in between them.
Oh yeah.
EVE is a lot of that too. There can be massive, terrifying fleet battles where your ship is at risk. And if it gets blown up, it's gone. You don't respawn with it somewhere. It's so that has gravitas and meaning, and you're paying attention. But in between, there's a lot of setup time and relaxing time too, where you're moving forces and other people are planning things, and you're getting sinusoidal beacons in position and you're planning your route. There's some downtime in between too. And I like the trade-offs of high focus, low focus moments. And we need that.
Yeah.
We need that in Stars Reach. We need moments where you can do something low intensity and focus on socializing, for example, or just chilling. You had a long day at work. You can put, a video up on one screen, Netflix, YouTube, whatever, and on the other screen, you're fishing or you're farming or you're mining or whatever.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Well,
underwater basket weaving. I made that up.
Mining, you gotta be a little bit more focused because you never know what's in front of you or above you, and especially when you put in the whole entire thing of the integrity of the resource and having to reinforce things. That's more of a thinking man's game, whereas the fishing, it's sit back, cast that reel, and wait and relax and have fun. I did that in EverQuest. That was my first real experience with it, is because the wait time on the boats were really long. And so we would sit there at the docks and we would just fish waiting for the boats. And then even when the boats were going, they were really slow. So we'd fish off of the boats and then we would get to the area where we wanted to go. And then that's when the action would happen, and so on and so forth. So I did the what you did in World of Warcraft, I did in EverQuest. And so having fishing and relaxing moments like that, and like you said, the gardening and stuff like that, maybe even running, like a cattle farm, or since we're talking Stars Reach, we have the ball hog farms. Maybe tame some
ball hog farm.
Yeah.
I'm not visiting your farm.
Oh, come on.
That sounds terrible.
Hey, I promise not to have ones that throw the ball hogs at you that makes it feel like you're playing a game of dodgeball.
Right.
Because that's sort of those are homing missiles. Those are natural made homing missiles. And it gives me a reason to practice my dodge capabilities in the game.
Good.
So, what's your favorite thing to do that is actually in game, or for the game, that's the most interactive?
Sometimes I enjoy the combat, or every now and then I still try to do the mapping sub game and stuff too. But whatever the team needs is really what I usually do. I like to feel like what the activity I'm doing in a game is meaningful in some way.
Yeah.
So either what the guild needs, for example, that's more meaningful. If, for example, harvesting and processing something for myself to sell is this much meaning, but if the guild needs it to achieve readiness for something and I contribute to the bigger thing, that has more meaning to me, more gravitas, more consequence, it's just more meaningful. And likewise, if the dev team needs that tested right now, that feels more gravitas to me too.
Yeah.
That's like, okay, this now is not just an activity of a game. It's now more a meaningful activity in a game. Great. I'll do that.
So I have one last question.
Yes, sir.
With when we did Beanstalk City, thanks to Beanstalk and her grand plans, did you actually build anything and help out with anything in that, since you're that type of person that likes to help out with big projects?
No, what I would just do is go collect resources that I thought they needed that weren't right nearby, and then go run up behind someone and put them in their bag, that type of thing. I don't have the good artistic skill at this. Mind you, I helped Dave on Landmark.
Mm-hmm.
So I've been around this kind of building before in a previous game. And I knew I wasn't as good at that as other folks. So I didn't try to do that. I just tried to be second level support and behind the scenes and don't get noticed.
Well, having someone grab those resources is a very vital thing when building something as big as Beanstalk State, because that person building something doesn't have to run away and go grab resources and then run back and build. They can focus on building, and the resource gatherer can go and get the resources. I see it a way as a real-time strategy game where you have the guys who go out and do the fighting, and then you have the guys who do the building, and then you have some other guys that do the harvesting of the resources, and each plays a very important role, and no one is less than another.
Right.
So I want to thank you for your time, Carneros. It was great
Thank you.
interviewing you, and I cannot wait for tomorrow's fireside chat and the future ones to get more information on what you guys are working on and to see what happens in the future of this game. Everyone, have a great day.
Thank you for your support.
Always.